Hello everyone, welcome to the fourth edition of the Total Beginner's Guide to Zwift Racing. Today you see my training room. We have an arcade part here on the left. We have three Japanese rhythm games, which is how it all started, but let's not get into that. We have a treadmill, but most importantly we have my Zwift set up right over here. And I see many people go wrong in this, or they don't take it seriously enough, I would say. So let's get right into it and go right to the most important thing for your Zwift setup. It's the fans. You see here, I have one fan on each side. And these are not just your everyday regular fan like this one is. These are very, very strong fans. They might not look like it, but they are. Here we have them. You can buy. I bought them on Amazon. It's Roventa VU 5640. They have. You can measure how effective a fan is by measuring the amount of cubic meters or something like that they can, number of air units they can fill in 1 minute. I don't know exactly how you do that, but these two, they each have a value of 2,800, and a regular fan like this usually have a value a little bit over 1,000. So these are almost 3 times as strong as a regular fan. And I recommend that you have one on each side. Then I have a quite large industry fan in front of me, and that one is even stronger. I think that's around 4,500 units. I was planning on having this one behind me, but I actually don't need it. But why is this important, you might ask? Well, only around 25% of the energy that you produce when you are riding on Zwift is converted into energy to the pedals. The rest, 75%, is used to produce heat. So it is very, very important that you keep cool. However, it's not enough to have fans. A good couple of fans is a must, but you must also have a good temperature in your room. So therefore, I suggest that you purchase a thermometer. I have one here. You can see 16.4 degrees Celsius, which is quite ideal, I would say. You can have even colder, and you can maybe have up to 18 degrees Celsius, but you should not have warmer than that. If you have very, very warm and you have fans, the fans don't do as much. But if you have this kind of temperature and you have very, very good fans, you are ideally set up. Right back here, not everyone can have this, but this is a unit that you can use for both to get heat, and you can use it as an air conditioner. Right now, as you can see outside, we have very, very cold winter in Sweden, so you don't need to use that. But in the summer, without this one, the room would be 25 degrees at least, and then the fans don't do that much. Right here is also an air conditioning unit. These are useful, but they don't do nearly as much as one of these. But if you live in a warmer climate, you certainly need, having good fans, it's not enough. You need something to cool your room down, even more than that. That's the most important thing. That's very, very important, because I noticed that when I am at another location, like sort of Zwift gym, you can say, in Stockholm, I have a much harder time making high watts for a prolonged duration. So this is something that you need to take very seriously. And I've seen even some quite proficient racers, I mean, guys who are better than me, who don't seem to take this as seriously as they should, actually. So that's something you need to think about. Then, second of all, I think this is quite important as well, these Zwift controllers. If you don't have them, you should get them. They're not that expensive. They are around $100, I think. Maybe even cheaper than that, maybe $50. They are definitely worth the investment. First and foremost, because you can steer with them, and that's quite important. If you are in the pack and you start to drift to the side, even if you are not at the front, you can lose draft simply by being too far to the side. And if you have steering, you can, to the most extent, avoid this. Then also, steering can also be a very useful advice. Maybe not as a complete beginner, but when you get better, if you try to break away from the group, or if you try to sprint, you can steer to the side, making it much harder for people to get your draft. And that can actually be a very, very useful tool, especially if they don't have steering. Then you can really outmaneuver them. So, Zwift controllers is also a must, I would say. Then, as you can see here, I have a stationary computer connected to a quite large monitor. I wouldn't say this is a requirement, but I highly recommend that you get this. You can use a laptop, but I really think that you should connect it to a monitor. You should, because if you just use the laptop screen, the numbers are not going to be, the useful information is not going to be as readily available for you as it is otherwise. However, the most important thing is to use a computer and not a tablet, like an iPad. Because if you do, you cannot, if you use a computer, you can use Source for Zwift, and I will go into that in the next edition of this. It's a very, very useful tool where you can see your exact draft, and you can see, you can get group info, but I will go into that in the next edition of this. But if you use a tablet, you cannot use Source for Zwift. If you use a computer, you can use it. And also another thing, I used to have a tablet, it's right here, and I used to put it like here. I had a certain setup so I can use it there, but the thing is, sometimes when I sprinted, I rocked the frame back and forth so violently that it went into the floor, and I couldn't watch anymore. I could pick it up after the race, but that's not ideal. You need something stationary. So if you have some money to spend, you should definitely not use a tablet, but rather a computer and a screen. Then, not absolutely necessary, but very, very useful, is to have a table nearby. You can put towels on it, and you can put your drinks on it. It's very, very handy. It's not essential like a good couple of fans are, but it is handy. And I, if you have the space, as you can see, I have very, very limited space here, but I think you should invest in a good table which is always within reach. You can keep like bananas, gels, drinks, and towels on it. That's it for this edition. I think this is often overlooked by people, and I don't understand why. Sure, it costs sometimes a lot of money. I mean, I spent, each of these are $150, and this one was like over $200, but it's worth it. I cannot stress this enough. It's often overlooked. I've seen very, very good riders using only a single standard fan, and they would be doing better. They would really be able to do better if they had a proper setup. And also that, I think that goes without saying, wear as little clothing as you possibly can. I always race bare-chested. You don't need to have a cycling jersey or anything like that. It's just gonna make you warmer, and you wanna be as cold as possible, basically. I mean, you shouldn't have sub-zero temperatures in your room, of course, but to a degree, you should try to be as cold as possible. If I put on this fan setup when I'm just doing a zone 2 ride, I'm freezing, actually. It's that cold. So that's not required in my zone 2, but when I race, certainly required. So that's it for now. In the next edition, I will probably go through the source for Zwift, which I think maybe not an essential piece of software that you use, but definitely something that will help you a lot. So see you there.